Stop thinking about yourself as made of particles right now, because you are not made of particles. You think you are made of atoms, tiny billiard balls bouncing around, held together by forces, electrons orbiting nuclei, quarks inside protons, little solid things all the way down. But there are no particles. There never were. That is not how reality works. You are not made of things. You are made of fields, quantum fields that fill all of space, vibrating in patterns so complex and so stable that they look like objects. You are not a collection of particles. You are a temporary knot of excitation in the universal field structure. You are not made of things. You are made of music. My name is Roger Penrose. I have spent my entire life working on the deepest structures of physics and mathematics. And I am going to tell you something that will change how you see reality forever. The particle picture, the one you learned in school, the one in every textbook, the one that seems so obvious and intuitive, is wrong. Not approximately wrong, fundamentally wrong. Let me show you why. The story begins in the 1920s. Quantum mechanics had just been born. Physicists discovered that light, which everyone thought was a wave, sometimes behaved like particles, photons, little packets of light, and electrons, which everyone thought were particles, sometimes behaved like waves. Wave-particle duality, the most famous mystery in physics. But here is what most people do not realize. Wave-particle duality was never solved by saying things are both waves and particles. That is a confused compromise. The actual solution developed in the 1930s and 1940s was far more radical. The solution was quantum field theory. And quantum field theory says there are no particles, only fields. Let me explain what a field is. A field is something that has a value at every point in space. Temperature is a field. At every location in this room, the air has a temperature. The Earth's magnetic field is a field. At every point near Earth, there is a magnetic field, strength and direction. In quantum field theory, every type of particle corresponds to a field that fills all of space. There is an electron field pervading the entire universe, a quark field, a photon field. These fields are always there, everywhere, at every point in space, whether or not any particles exist. A particle is not a thing. A particle is a localized excitation in the field. A ripple, a wave, a knot of energy that has enough structure and stability that it looks approximately like a localized object. Think of the ocean. Waves on the ocean are not made of wave stuff separate from water. They are patterns in the water, temporary disturbances that move through the medium. The wave is not a thing. It is an event, a process, a configuration of the underlying substance. Particles are like that. An electron is not a little ball floating in empty space. It is a localized excitation in the electron field, a ripple in a universal field that happens to be stable enough to persist and move through space in ways that look, from a distance, like a particle trajectory. But the field is fundamental. The particle is just a pattern in the field. Now you might think this is just semantics. Fine, call them field excitations instead of particles. What is the difference? The difference is everything. Because once you understand that fields are fundamental, a dozen quantum mysteries suddenly make sense. Why can particles be created and destroyed? Because they are not things. They are patterns. Energy can go into the field and create an excitation. Energy can come out of the field and the excitation disappears. You cannot create or destroy a thing, but you can absolutely create or destroy a pattern. Why do identical particles behave identically? Because there are not separate particles. There is one electron field. Every electron is an excitation of the same field. So of course they are all identical. They are not different objects. They are different excitations of the same underlying reality. Why does quantum entanglement happen? Two particles that are entangled are not really two separate things that happen to be correlated. They are a single pattern in the field that extends across space. When you measure one part of the pattern, the entire pattern responds because it was never divided in the first place. You are not separate from the universe. You are a pattern in the universal field structure, connected at the deepest level to every other pattern. Now let me take this further. Empty space. The vacuum is not empty. The quantum fields are still there, filling space, even when no particles exist. And those fields are never completely still. They fluctuate. Quantum fluctuations. Virtual particles appearing and disappearing, borrowing energy from the vacuum for brief moments before paying it back. The vacuum is seething with activity. The electron field is fluctuating. The photon field is fluctuating. All the fields everywhere, always vibrating at the quantum level, even when the average value is 0. This is not speculation. We can measure this. The Casimir effect shows that two metal plates in vacuum experience a force because the quantum field fluctuations between the plates are different from the fluctuations outside. Virtual particles are not hypothetical. They have measurable effects. Empty space is full. The universe is not made of matter floating in void. It is made of fields everywhere, always fluctuating and occasionally organizing into stable patterns that we mistakenly call particles. You are not in space. You are a configuration of the fields that fill space. There is no you separate from the fields. You are what the fields are doing in this particular region of space-time. Now here is where I become uncomfortable with the standard story. Quantum field theory is the most successful theory in the history of physics. It predicts experimental results with absurd precision, sometimes to 12 decimal places. The electron's magnetic moment, the Lamb shift, the anomalous gyromagnetic ratio, all predicted by quantum field theory with extraordinary accuracy. But it is ugly. Mathematically, brutally ugly. The theory is plagued by infinities. When you try to calculate simple things like the self-energy of an electron, you get infinite answers. The field fluctuations at short distances blow up to infinity. Every calculation gives you infinity until you perform a mathematical trick called renormalization, where you carefully subtract infinities to get finite answers. And it works. The procedure gives you the right answers. But it is philosophically bankrupt. You are essentially saying, ignore the infinities. They do not really mean anything. Just subtract them out and calculate the finite remainder. This is not fundamental physics. This is a cookbook procedure that happens to work. We do not understand why it works. We are papering over our ignorance with mathematical tricks. The problem, I believe, is that we are treating space-time as continuous and infinitely divisible. We assume the fields exist at every mathematical point in space, which means space has infinite resolution. And infinite resolution leads to infinite fluctuations at short distances. But I do not believe space-time is infinitely divisible. I think space-time is emergent. It is not fundamental. At the Planck scale, 10 to the minus 35 meters, space-time itself breaks down. It dissolves into something more primitive. And that something, I have spent 40 years arguing, is twistor space. Twistor theory attempts to describe physics not in space-time, but in a more abstract space where light rays and spin are fundamental. Space-time emerges from twistor space. It is not primary. It is derived. If space-time is emergent, then quantum fields are not really fields on space-time. There is something else. Patterns in twistor space, perhaps, and space-time with its fields is just a low-energy, large-scale approximation. This would explain why quantum field theory has infinities. We are pushing the theory into a regime where space-time itself does not exist, where the field description breaks down, and we are surprised when we get nonsense answers. I do not have the full answer yet. Twistor theory is beautiful, but incomplete. It works wonderfully for certain problems, massless particle scattering, self-dual Yang-Mills theory, but extending it to full quantum gravity has proven devilishly difficult. But I am convinced the direction is right. Space-time is not fundamental. Fields on space-time are not fundamental. Something deeper gives rise to both. Now let me bring this back to you, to your body, to the question of what you are. You think you are made of atoms, about 7 octillion atoms in a human body. Each atom supposedly made of electrons and a nucleus. Each nucleus made of protons and neutrons. Each proton and neutron made of quarks. But none of these are things. They are all field excitations. Your body is not a collection of objects. It is a fantastically complex pattern of excitations in multiple quantum fields. The electrons in your atoms are ripples in the electron field. The quarks in your nuclei are ripples in the up quark field and down quark field. The photons mediating electromagnetic forces between your atoms are ripples in the photon field. You are not made of stuff. You are a pattern, a configuration, a localized, stable, self-sustaining knot in the field structure of the universe. And here is the strangest part. The fields that make up your body are the same fields that make up everything else. The electron field that has an excitation in your brain right now is the same electron field that has excitations in the screen you are looking at, in the star Betelgeuse, in a hydrogen atom in the Andromeda galaxy. There is one electron field pervading all of space. Your electrons and my electrons are not separate things. They are different excitations of the same universal field. At the deepest level, you and I are not separate. We are patterns in the same underlying reality. The ancient mystics said all is one. They were mocked by reductionist scientists who believed in separate individual particles. But quantum field theory vindicates the mystics. There is only one reality, the quantum fields, and everything is a pattern within that unity. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe locally organized into a pattern complex enough to be self-aware. Now let me address what you might be thinking. If particles are not real, why does the particle picture work so well? Why can I treat electrons as little balls and get the right answers? Because the particle picture is an approximation, and for many purposes, it is a very good approximation. When excitations in the field are well separated, when they are not strongly interacting, when you are not asking questions about very short distances or very high energies, you can pretend they are particles and you will get approximately correct answers. But it is like Newtonian mechanics. Newton's laws work beautifully for everyday speeds and masses, but they are not true. They are approximations to special relativity. And when you push into extreme regimes, near light speed, near black holes, the approximation breaks down and you need the real theory. The particle picture is like that. It works until it does not. And when it does not, you need quantum field theory. Virtual particles, the ones that appear and disappear in the vacuum, do not fit the particle picture at all. They violate energy conservation. They exist for times shorter than the uncertainty principle allows classical particles to exist. They are not particles. They are quantum field fluctuations, and the only coherent way to describe them is with fields. Quantum entanglement does not make sense with particles. Two particles cannot be connected if they are separate things in different locations, but two excitations in the same field absolutely can be part of one non-separable pattern. And particle creation and annihilation, the core of particle physics experiments, is completely inexplicable if particles are things. You cannot create or destroy a thing, but you can absolutely change the excitation pattern of a field. The field picture is not just more fundamental. It is the only picture that makes quantum mechanics coherent. So what are you really? Let me put it precisely. You are a localized, stable, self-sustaining configuration of quantum field excitations, borrowing energy from chemical bonds in ATP molecules, using that energy to maintain highly ordered information structures in neuronal networks, with those information structures being precisely the patterns that, when they reach certain thresholds of complexity and integration, give rise to conscious experience. You are not things held together. You are a process, a pattern persisting in time, because it has enough structure to resist dispersal, enough stability to maintain continuity, enough complexity to be self-aware. You are a knot in the fields, a ripple that looks in a mirror and sees itself, a pattern that contemplates its own pattern nature. And when you die, when that pattern disperses, when the field excitations that constitute your body dissolve back into the quantum vacuum, where do you go? Nowhere. Because you were never separate to begin with. The fields remain. The universe remains. The local pattern that was you dissolves, but the fields that made that pattern are eternal, unchanging, fundamental. You do not end, you disperse. You return to the ocean of fields from which you temporarily emerged. The ancient Buddhists had a word for this, anatta, non-self. The recognition that there is no separate permanent self, only temporary patterns in an eternal process. Quantum field theory proves anatta. You are not a thing. You have no unchanging essence. You are a process, a pattern, a temporary configuration that will dissolve. But the fields are permanent. The quantum field structure of the universe is, as far as we know, eternal. It existed before the Big Bang. If my cyclic cosmology is correct, it will exist after the heat death of this eon. You are not separate from that eternity. You are a brief, localized expression of it, a way the eternal fields organize themselves into complexity and awareness. And that, I think, is more profound than any particle picture could ever be. You are not a collection of things. You are a song. The universe is singing a temporary melody in an eternal composition. And when the melody ends, the music does not stop. It simply moves on to the next note, the next pattern, the next moment of the eternal symphony. There are no particles. There is only the field. There is only the process. There is only the pattern. And you are one beautiful, temporary, infinitely precious pattern in the infinite creativity of the quantum fields, not made of things, made of music, made of mathematics, made of the same fundamental reality as stars, stones, and distant galaxies. You are not separate. You never were. You are the universe experiencing itself for a brief moment before dissolving back into the eternal field structure from which all patterns emerge and to which all patterns return. There are no particles, only fields, only patterns, only process. And you are that process, aware of itself, for one precious, fleeting moment.